Howard Van Doren Shaw was once described as the worst architect in America. He was conservative and very traditional. It's reflected in the buildings he designed, especially the residences. Turns out families want a place to live, eat, sleep, and raise a family. The model for the character Daisy Buchanan lived in a Howard Van Doren Shaw home in Lake Forest. Christ said the poor will always be with you, and F. Scott Fitzgerald said the wealthy always retreat back into their money. There's a hierarchy baked into culture. Someone is always marginalized. God determines if it's good architecture because he's the ultimate architect. Welcome. Welcome to Sunday Coffee Hour. I'm Stanley Smith at Sunday Coffee Hour. We talk about everything and nothing. This Sunday, we talked about St. Fatima Church, Dr. Grew, HB virus cancer, ecumenicalism, how emotions have challenges, and if it's an incantation for healing. The readings at Washington National Cathedral were from Daniel. God is seated on the throne of heaven. And from Revelations, God, he's the Alpha and the Omega. The sermon at Washington National Cathedral was by Gene Robinson. Gene said, for many of us, it's been a rough time. For those who are celebrating, we're going to be praying for you. Many are concerned about overthrowing the government. Gene compared the incoming Trump presidency as a hostile takeover. We have the fantastical story of Christ as king and hanging on the cross. How is this relevant today? Gene said he was comforted to know at National Cathedral on Sunday, the service would include baptism. In baptism, there is always hope. That's what Christ brings. Even if we're not happy and we're not seeing social justice happening in our lifetime, we can still have hope that it's coming. Gene said he's not talking about politics, he's talking about morality. He said one takeaway from the election is that the most vulnerable are going to suffer most. God's not concerned about inflation, illegal immigration, or the stock market. God's principal concern is always for the most vulnerable, the poor, the sick, the destitute, and the victims of xenophobia, racism, and homophobia. Gene said there are many examples of who are discriminated against. And the inconvenient truth is that we know many of these people. Transgender people will soon be blocked from using public bathrooms by Congress. God loves our authentic self. How can we experience God's love if we can't be who we are intended to be? It's something they're trying to deny us. But in baptism, we're asked to renounce this evil, the evil of not seeing the humanity in others. Penalizing the vulnerable is evil. We need to remain human in this inhuman time. Gene said God is transgender, and we need to get used to it. Hate and fear will not prevail. Love wins. At St. James Cathedral, the sermon was by Stephen Balke. Stephen said, Christ is calling us. It's like a I want you poster. It's like Uncle Sam. What's our answer? What do you say to that? When you get ordained in the church, Stephen said it's like answering a call. He said there is the assumption that there'll be training and an apprenticeship. Often it turns into a sink or swim moment. Instead of a time of formation, it's Christ the King calling. Christ the King Sunday was instituted by Pope Pius 99 years ago as a way to satisfy our need for a king. God says we don't need one because he is king, but we want one anyway. Theology and liturgy is always evolving. It tries to meet us where we are. Stephen pointed to the portrait of Christ the King and also to the crucifix. It's a way of seeing God in different ways. Stephen said that at St. James, many find hospitality, welcome, and deep spiritual connection. Christ's kingship is often defined by those who deny its true glory. And in that way, it's often lifted up, even when we're most disparaged. The best is yet to come, St. James. Growing up in Rockford, Illinois, the 1989 lawsuit, People Who Care, against the City of Rockford Board of Education shocked many of us who live there. We had never heard of discrimination. If you look up the case, it says it was filed by Black and Hispanic students, represented by Scarano and Associates. So the children apparently decided to litigate against the school board, and they got their parents to reach out to a law firm to represent them. Behind every victim of marginalization is probably a people who care group or a law firm hoping to make some money. Now that the election is over, we all have to scramble to get on the right side of returning evil for evil. My uncle Avery Gave served on the Rockford School Board when the verdict was returned for the lawsuit against the Rockford School Board. I asked him how could they reach such a verdict. He said it was because they were guilty. The evidence was so blatant. They gave all the best resources to the white side of town and shortchanged the Black side. The generations of marginalized class, Black, women, and Latino have been displaced by the new marginalized class of transgender and non-binary. The legacy marginalized balked at this in the last election. It's not a rejection of other people, it's the rejection of the government being in the business of determining who is the new protected class, marginalizing one for the benefit of the other. It's easy to return evil for evil. We ask, may this cup pass. Christ comes to liberate and set free the captives. He's setting them free from the people who care. They're always serving themselves. It's the worst kind of social justice imaginable. If you would like to join us at Sunday Coffee Hours every Sunday at 12 noon Central Time on Zoom, I will include my email in the description of this video. Be happy to send you an invitation. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.